Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. We have everyone in attendance today. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. I would also like to remind you that in addition to the audience in this room, we have people watching and listening online. So please consider your language in comments and testimony today. Today's meeting is a hybrid board meeting. Some presenters and guests will appear in person and some will appear virtually. For those presenting virtually, please mute your mic when not speaking, and when presenting, make sure to unmute your mic and turn on your camera. For those joining us in person to provide public testimony or present, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking and off when you've completed your remarks. For all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. May I have a motion on the consent calendar? Second. Commissioner Brim Edwards moves, Commissioner Moyer seconds. Approval of the consent calendar.
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards? Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye. The consent calendar is approved.
Opportunity for public comment on non-agenda matters. This is the time for the board to hear public testimony, not for board deliberation. When it is your turn to speak, I'll call your name and unmute you or call you to the presenter's table. I'll set a timer for 3 minutes when you begin speaking and announce when your time is up, at which point please wrap up your sentence. Chair, we have 5 people signed up for verbal testimony, and 1 person submitted written testimony, which was shared with board members and staff. I'll call 4 people at a time: Charles Bridge Crane Johnson, Addie Smith, and Lightning.
Good morning.
Good morning. As most people know, I am Bridge Crane Charles Simca Johnson, and do we really know what we're doing? We are, working through finalizing a budget in a time when I think Lillian Hughes at the Oregonian and every other media outlet has said, oh, the homeless number that we had for the 3 years when we had money isn't the real homeless number. Here's an extra 6,000 homeless people or something like that. One of the good, effective arguments against incarcerating people guilty of crimes is the staggering cost. So we sometimes calculate that cost and talk about whether it's $17,000 per inmate or $29,000 per inmate. But I don't think we've been clear talking about the expenditure to help somebody move out of homelessness. And of course, one of you up there is fortunate or burdened enough to have seen the nitty-gritty of all that, because it, of course, varies on individuals. I don't even know if we do the VISPADAP anymore. I do feel that when we used a tool called the VISPADAP, but I can't decipher that acronym for you, sorry, that it was horribly unpaired with getting people matching services based on their acuity. And I haven't seen anything in any of our homeless services planning that improves that. So some people, who are low barrier, in theory, they should have been moved into housing at a lower cost and had great retention. Oops. Here's another field where I don't know if we've allocated even a single FTE. If we get low barrier people into housing faster, how are we doing at keeping them there? What is the retention system? I know we don't do answers here, but if we're gonna win, if we're gonna help more and more people end their homelessness, I think we need to talk more about people's grouping. It's not always great to group people, but some people, higher acuity people, are gonna cost us more. Lower acuity people may move faster, cost us less. We want them all to stay, so we need to invest a certain amount of money in helping them stay so that we don't have to pay for the eviction process. Even their landlords will be happy about that, not having to file an eviction. So once we get the nitty-gritty big numbers passed through this budget, we're still gonna have to come back and tweak as we bring in the replacement for Danfield. Good luck, y'all. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, my name is Hattie Smith. Today is May 8th, 2025. Today I am speaking before the Multnomah County Commission in Portland, Oregon. These county commissioners employ the staff at the Department of Community Justice. Erica Pruitt is the director of the Department of Community Justice. These commission members have allowed Erica Pruitt, Amanda Miller, a probation officer, James Stevens, a supervisor for the probation officers, and Dorsey Johnson to commit perjury, submit fraudulent documents, including perjured documents, to 2 different courts. They violated Oregon state laws and violated the rules and regulations and standards of practice of a probation officer without accountability, reprimand, or termination. These commission members are elected to office by us. They get in office and roll their eyes at us, refuse to respond to our emails and calls and demands for justice or accountability. They scoff at us for being angry with them for failing to do their jobs. They refuse to do their jobs because we express our anger, disdain, and frustrations with them for refusing to do their jobs. This is liberal Oregon, isn't it? These are Democrats. Erica Pruitt holds her head down and does as she's told. She's a good girl and welcomes the pats to her head like Linda Thomas Greenfield, who, despite Israel violating the law, continues to refuse to hold these murderers accountable for ethnically cleansing a country and Black and brown people that doesn't belong to it. Erica Pruitt allows her white staff to violate the laws with impunity of the state of Oregon. She is a coward. She is a liar. She is dishonest. These commission members, these Democrats, are dishonest and untrustworthy. They are unworthy of our votes. Amanda Miller is the equivalent in every aspect of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here in quote-unquote liberal Oregon, we have our very own Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lying, law-violating, white supremacist racist who violates the laws and rights of Black probationers. Because of Amanda Miller's lies, a young Black man sits in jail. She has lied so profusely and so effortlessly to a systemically and structurally racist Washington County Circuit Court judge that a young man has been in jail for nearly 2 years, not because he's guilty of committing a crime or even violating probation, but simply because he's Black. Washington County Circuit Court judges are so racist that this county is currently being sued by Black attorneys licensed to practice in the state. It's so racist that they send young Black men to jail with $50,000 bonds for crimes that they didn't commit and give white attorneys and judges probation after being convicted of participating in or watching child porn. And some of these judges watched it from the bench in Washington County. When these attorneys and judges were arrested, they were sent home on their own recognizance. No bail required, no bail necessary. But innocent Black men get the maximum bail. Oregon is the second most racist state in the nation, and Democrats are far more racist than any MAGA or Republican I've ever seen. The reason they are screaming at the top of their lungs about Trump and the Republican Party is because their comforts, liberal comforts, white comforts are being disrupted.
Thank you.
As long as this was only happening to us Black folk, they were perfectly fine with any laws that were and are being violated. The most
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Sovereign Wealth Fund XAI USD 1. One of the concerns that I have at Multnomah County is that I haven't really seen your studies on child poverty and on the health effects from the mental side and also from the physical side and also through their schools. I haven't seen any type of a study on how child poverty and the effects it has. Now, when we're talking the Sovereign Wealth Fund, what I wanted the Trump administration to do is end homelessness or poverty and child poverty throughout the United States. And one of the ways that they can do that is by using the stable coin. And one of the things that can be utilized is that they already have a company that is Liberty Financial, World Liberty Financial. They already have their stable coin, USD1. And the way to implement that is through the United States, there's an estimated 35 million people living in poverty. From that 35 million, there's approximately, possibly 10 million child poverty. Now, if we offer them $1,000 a month, $12,000 per year, we're looking at somewhere around $500 billion to implement that. Now, the reality is that can be done. We're talking the federal government here. And if they use the stable coin, they will take a fee off of that, their company, which is normally about a 10% fee off $500 billion. So they'll make $50 billion per year. That goes actually to Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. Now, for President Trump to look at that, he's going to go, that's $50 billion a year as a fee to end poverty and child poverty through the United States. He's going to look at that very close and say, I'm in. I can pass that, and I can end poverty through the United States and child poverty. But we need to have the studies from the counties to present and move that forward to where they look at that and go, yeah, this can be a reality. We can get that done. We can come up with that $500 billion. But the counties and the cities and the states have not brought that data forward. That needs to be brought forward to show the benefits of ending poverty, of ending child poverty, which nobody up here wants to talk about. Nobody wants to even mention that because you can't solve the problem. The Trump administration can do it, and they will benefit by doing it.
Thank you.
It can be a reality if you want it to be. Take care of the children.
We have one more in person, injured and pissed off.
My name's injured and pissed off, and I signed up here last week and talked, and wifey White Whopper, if you use Google, just 3 words, you can look up and see why they closed the organ transplant program at OHSU. And I was talking about OHSUcruelty.org. There's a commercial that they advertise, but that they're treating monkeys cruelly. Well, I know a woman that's had 3 hip surgeries on the same hip. She fell, apparently, and broke her hip, and then she had to have a second operation in 5 days, and she doesn't remember when the next one was, but she's doing as well as I am, where she's got to have a walker and memory problems and balance problems. And I had tried to sign up online at my care facility this week, and they wouldn't respond for some reason. So I'm here in person talking. I can't believe that they can do things like this. Injure you. I was talking about government being bad. Well, it's super bad when the government's your slumlord and your health care provider and animal control supervision. They don't do anything, so they use drugs. Jeff Coogan definitely was. And I had 2 dog attacks. The last 2 dog attacks, number 6 and 7, when he was using drugs and fooling around with the health care provider, I guess getting them back. I've never had any chance of winning anything. Nobody can beat City Hall. In fact, the only person that I've ever heard of beating City Hall is Joe Walsh. He's dead now, but he sued the mayor and the city for free speech. Well, I could sue him for a hell of a lot more. Some damn attorney would represent me, but none of them are because they're all insured by the Oregon State Bar, and they only pay a $45 monthly insurance or yearly insurance for their license to practice law. I wonder if the doctors even pay that much for their abuse, negligence. I've got spinal cord injuries. I know I have traumatic brain injury, but I'm wondering who's nuttier than me that would allow that.
Thank you.
Next online, we have Karen Cherry. Karen, are you able to unmute and share?
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Karen Chire. I'm speaking to you today as a concerned business owner and resident of Multnomah County and a member of Stadium Hood. Deeply affected by the ongoing challenges surrounding safety and livability in our community. The proposed budget cuts, particularly in light of the $77 million deficit, threaten not only essential services, but the very fabric of our neighborhoods. As a business owner, I have witnessed firsthand the impact of rising crime rates fueled by inadequate housing solutions and insufficient law enforcement resources. Our streets are increasingly plagued by homelessness and drug use, which compromise not only the safety of our residents, but also the viability of local businesses. 2 businesses within a block from my business have closed within the last 2 weeks. The lack of getting these people off our streets and the overwhelming numbers of individuals struggling with addiction, leaving us feeling vulnerable and exposed. Businesses are leaving in unprecedented amounts. While I recognize the necessity of addressing the budget shortfall, I urge the board to reconsider cuts that impact public safety and essential services. Opening more jail beds is vital, not solely for those committing personal crimes, but for maintaining order and safety within our community. Everyone that commits a crime should be in jail. We need to ensure that our DA's office has the necessary resources to help PBB combat retail and auto theft, which have devastating effects on both businesses and residents alike. The proposed cuts to the DA's office, instead of funding them to obtain more public defenders and critical support programs, undermine our justice system and affect all members of our community. We need to invest in these services to ensure that justice is served for all those deserving and that our community can thrive in a safe environment. Not all of us can afford $154,000 to obtain our own private security. I implore you to consider the long-term implications of these budget cuts, ensuring adequate funding for public safety, mental health services, and housing solutions is not just about balancing a budget. It's about investing in the future of Multnomah County. We must work together to create a livable and safe environment for all residents. Thank you.
Chair, that is all the public testimony today.
All right, let's move on to R1. We will now recess as the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners and convene as the Multnomah County Budget Committee. Switch your heads.
R1, resolution approving the chair's proposed FY 2026 budget for submittal to the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission.
May I have a motion? Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Moyer seconds approval of R1. So this is the next step in our budget process. My proposed budget has been posted online along with the program offers in our Tableau dashboard. We have 5 weeks remaining planned for review, deliberation, and discussion of the budget. Today's action is our vote to approve the budget and allow us to transmit it to the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. As we discussed a few weeks ago, after this action, no major fund can be increased by more than 10%, and property tax estimates cannot be increased. I'm going to invite Christian and Jeff for a brief presentation before our discussion and vote. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Christian Elkin, County Budget Director. I use she, her pronouns. This is an exciting day. I have worn my Met Gala shirt because this is the budget version of Met Gala. The bigger one will be on Adoption Day, so I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm not sure I thought this through. So we're going to walk through a little bit. It's going to be hard to top, that's true. We're going to walk through just some basics of the budget, reminders of what we can and cannot do, and then also we have slides in here that show us what that 10% threshold is. In case you were wondering, we wanted to make sure that there's full disclosure as we move through this process. So if we can go to the next slide, please. In our standard slide here, I was joking with Commissioner Burnett Edwards when we walked in, as if I do the math on this, we are 80% way through the budget process. We are moving our little triangle over to approval of the budget process, which again is a stage in Oregon budget law and a requirement. And then, as the chair just said, we're going to have 5 weeks of robust department budget work sessions where you're going to be spending a lot of time in this room and spending a lot of time really digging into the $4 billion budget that we have in front of you. So if we can go to the next slide, please. As a reminder, we have 6 public hearings. Today is a public hearing. We have 3 evening hearings starting on May 14th next week. We have the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission hearing on June 4th. As a reminder, as process, they typically send us those questions for the board about 5 days in advance. Sometimes that includes weekends, and so we will be working very quickly to turn that around for you all so that you have that information in front of you. And then we have the budget adoption hearing, which is currently scheduled for June 12th. If we can go to the next slide, please. As a reminder of the department work sessions that are coming up, the kind of what you'll be, and you've already seen, I think some of those presentations are already on the board clerk's website, but the CBACs will kick those off and they will present their findings. We're trying to identify in the CBAC what their recommendations are, things that are already in the budget so that you all can kind of have a crosswalk to that to make sure that you understand those priorities and how and when and if they show up in the current proposed budget. The board can ask lots of questions. You're already doing that. We really appreciate that you are kind of forecasting the things that you're going to be interested in. It helps the departments prepare for those presentations. And then we do have set-aside times held. Marina was already asking me, do I have an agenda for the upcoming set-aside time? And I don't, because it will depend on what happens during those work sessions. So oftentimes you won't be getting that information in advance, unfortunately, because we're moving so quickly through the process. So I just wanted to daylight that. And then we can also do structured follow-up or briefings following the year as well, and we can help manage that with you all. And then everything is posted online, so I can resend the link, but there's a budget work session link on our website for fiscal year 2026. We post both the presentations and then the follow-up that I send so that the community can follow along and you all aren't just getting those answers kind of behind closed doors. We want to make sure the community has access to them. And then also that is where we will be posting the board engagement as we're working through the amendment process. So you all know I shared that form with you. We're going to be posting that online. So as you're making amendments, the community can then see kind of the description, the overview, and the thought process behind the amendment process as well, instead of just sharing that summary sheet, which I don't think really provides a window into the theory and the trade-offs that we're making in the process. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Again, board amendments for budget adoption. You can do a lot of things with an amendment as long as the budget remains balanced. Typically, if there's any revenue amendments, the budget office will be bringing those for you. And But again, if you all discover some money that we have not found, please raise your hand and let us know. We'll be happy to include it in the budget. The things that you can't do, as we're going to say consistently throughout this presentation, once the approved budget is set, we have that threshold of 10%. It doesn't mean we can't change a fund by more than 10%. It just means there's some extra procedural process that we'll need to go through. We have checked in on all the small funds where we really run risk of going over that 10% rule. We have not been notified that it looks like that any of those will need any adjustment at this time. And then, as always, as I like to say, we can't do anything illegal. So just small standards that we need to meet here. So if we could go to the next slide, please. I'm going to let Jeff talk about, because once we set the approved budget, it also sets our property tax rates. And so we're just going to walk through what those rates are to make sure that everybody has a full understanding of the kind of what's being fed into the budget related to these rates.
Thank you, Christian. For the record, I'm Jeff Renfro from the Budget Office. I use he, him pronouns. So I'm just going to quickly walk through our assumptions around property taxes that cannot change. So first, our permanent rate for the Multnomah County General Fund, which couldn't change anyway. Permanent is like really underlined in the Oregon property tax system, is $4.34 and 34/100ths of a cent per $1,000 of assessed value. The rate that we're assuming for the Multnomah County Library District is $1.22 per $1,000 of assessed value. That remains below the voter-approved max of $1.24. Our assumption in the modeling that we presented to you is that we go up to $1.2024 in fiscal year 2028. For the Oregon Historic Society, we collect their local option levy on their behalf and then transfer it through to them. That's 5 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. And then the library GO bonds, because that is a GO bond, it's not a rate. We specify an amount that we want to collect. And then we pass that amount on to the assessor's office, and they calculate a per taxpayer amount that they'll then pay to us. Our assumptions around compression and delinquency, which we take those rates, we apply it to our assessed value assumption, and then we apply assumptions around delinquency and compression to reduce our expected revenue collected. So our assumption for discounted delinquency is 4.5%. This is based on tracking historic levels of discounted delinquency. Our permanent rate compression assumption is 4.5%. It's just a complete coincidence that those are the same numbers. They're typically not. The compression assumption means that when we calculate what we would expect to collect in revenue, 4.5% of it doesn't show up. It gets compressed down in voters' tax bills. And then the Historic Society levy compression assumption is 25%. It's so much higher because in our property tax system, local option levies get compressed first, so the compression for them is significantly higher. That means a quarter of their revenue that they would normally expect to collect won't be collected. That's gone up considerably in the last few years due to declining downtown property values. So I can answer any questions if you have any, or I'll pass it back to Christian.
Any questions for Jeff? Okay,
Great, thank you. Oh, sorry, thank you. Marina, so the next slides 7 through 13 are the 10% rules. So I just want to daylight that you have that in front of you. If you have any questions, we can certainly answer a question about one of these funds. But again, the general fund for the example here is that in order to meet that 10%, be over the 10% threshold, you all would have to be taking actions to add $67 million to the general fund. And so it's an additive, not we can redistribute the funds within the fund across departments, across programs. Any of those things are actions that you all can take. This rule is just really about adding to the fund. So I just wanted to daylight that. And if we can skip to slide 14, I should have told Marina I was going to do this in advance. Apologies. So again, also during this process, you all can raise budget notes, which you also have a form for, and we will publish those on our website as well. These really are, for an array of different policy issues. I've had multiple conversations with your chiefs about when we should use them. Maybe is there a different avenue? Is there a different forum? And so we'll just keep having those conversations as we move through the process. Just like an amendment budget notes and amendments have to be passed by a majority of the board. So we'll need 3 votes to include those in the budget. We can go to the next slide, please. As we're moving through this process, as a reminder, we will have ended this process with a balanced budget. And so we must ensure that as we're looking through that, and thank you, Commissioner Singleton, for asking us to revise the amendment sheet itself to really provide you all that opportunity to provide balanced amendments. But we will be making sure that whatever package or whatever set of amendments that we adopt are balanced at the end of the process. The next slide, please, is just a reminder of what's currently in the budget. Since this is a budget work session, I always like to have a lot of numbers. It's currently at $4 billion for the total budget. The operating budget, you know, when we take out reserves, contingencies, cash transfers, all of those fund accounting things, is really at about $3 billion. This is, even at the total, this is only an $18 million increase year over year for a budget that was about $3.98 million last year. So we know that that signals that we are making reductions in this budget. There's 5,866 FTE currently in there, and I've been sharing lots of FTE data with you all and kind of slicing and dicing that information so you can look at it. It currently has $62.3 million of one-time only funds, and our reserves and on our unearmarked contingencies are set at $102.7 million. If we can go to the next slide, please. Just as a reminder, I think we had this conversation earlier this week, but we have about $77.8 million in our reserve account. That is 12% of our corporate revenues. So that is our property taxes, our business income taxes, and our motor vehicle rental tax. Best practice is to be at 15%, and we will continue to move towards that goal as we move through subsequent budget processes. The general fund contingency, and Commissioner Moyer, this is the conversation we're having about that additional contingency that we have for the business income tax because of the volatility. That's set currently at $21.1 million. And then we have just kind of our standard contingency, which is $2 million. We did increase that, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. It used to be at $1.5 million, and we have increased that to $2 million. As inflation and all of the other things have kind of crept up, we wanted to keep pace with that fund. And then currently in our general fund contingency set-asides, we have the additional contingency for uncertainty at $1.7 million. That is one-time only funding and is really meant to address potentially any issues or risks that we're seeing in the fall, or if we need to ramp down or offset any reductions from the state to get us through to the next budget process. We also have one flex storm earmarked with one-time only money. That is for the potential so that we're not seeing any emergency releases, and really gives the sheriff that flexibility to address any emerging needs in our jails. And then finally, we identify anything that is related to current existing contracts. So in Local 88's contract, they have 3 market studies, and so we have set aside $600,000 to address that market study. Last year in this set-aside bucket, we also had pay equity, but we are not on the pay equity schedule right now, so in the future, you could see a set-aside for pay equity when we need to do that. So if we can go to the next slide, please. As a summary, the current budget is implementing $25.7 million of general fund reductions. We're hoping that this is our toughest year in the 5-year forecast, but we also know that the environmental and economic landscape is changing, and so that is why we come so frequently to you with our general fund forecast updates. In the future, we know that we are going to have inflation concerns related to our personnel costs, both our internal FTE and our contractors' FTE and our community-based providers. And so that's going to be a pressure that we're going to see on all of our costs. We have 6 open labor contracts, and then we know that we're going to have to come back in the fall to rebalance the state budget once they're finalized. We can go to the next slide, please. And as a reminder, when we come back on budget adoption, it's going to be more than a 1-page resolution, which is what you have in front of you today. We're going to be levying property taxes. We'll talk about our financial and budget policies, our investment policy, our fund resolutions, salary compensation schedule, and our fee schedule. And so with that, just as a reminder that approving this budget does not mean it's unchangeable, as a word that Commissioner Singleton's staff nicely provided. The action today allows the county to meet the requirements of Oregon budget law. It allows me to submit and transmit the proposed budget as the approved budget to the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. And with that, I will return it back to the chair.
Thank you so much, Christian and Jeff. Really appreciate this overview. I'm sure we will have, well, we may have some questions and comments, but we do have several people signed up for public testimony. So we're going to go ahead and hear public testimony, and then we'll open it up from the board. Bless you.
I'm going to call 4 people at a time. Please come forward and have a seat at the presenter table. Jed McLean, Joseph Westover, Caitlin Hoofnagel, and Sonia Stefani. And testimony will be 3 minutes per person.
Good morning. You can go ahead and begin. Oh, and you guys are welcome to step at the seats.
Good morning. My name is Jed McLean. I am a licensed clinical social worker at Franklin High School, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Franklin High School Counseling Department, who has worked for years with our school-based health center therapist, Kate Thomas. She is one of the 4 therapists who are being cut from Franklin, Cleveland, and Benson High Schools and George Middle School. I'm here this morning to say that we can't afford to lose any of these therapists. They are the most accessible mental health resource for school-aged children and adolescents in our state, which is enduring an ongoing crisis in adolescent mental health made worse during the isolation and fear many of our students experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Oregon consistently ranks amongst the worst states in the nation for the scope and severity of mental illness in our adolescent population, as well as a disproportionate lack of access to quality providers compared to other states. This is in part due to the rural areas of Oregon that so many of our youth live in, where there are often few, if any, providers available. And in Portland, we have far too few providers to meet the needs of the growing numbers of adolescents experiencing more severe and complex mental health and substance abuse challenges. Cutting these positions may save the county a little money right now, but it will cost so much more in the long run when we think in terms of lifetime health outcomes, incarceration and suicide rates, and lost productivity in the workforce. As counseling department staff, we consistently talk to caregivers whose students are so impacted by anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses that these students are often unable to consistently attend their classes or even make it to school at all when these symptoms are severe. Once caregivers and school staff have identified that a student needs to engage in therapy and we make a referral, the youth may have to wait weeks or sometimes months for an initial intake, during which time these mild or moderate symptoms may become more severe. Once a student can't get out of bed or is experiencing acute suicide ideation, we then have to attempt to engage them in crisis services, which are far more expensive and scarce. Oregon only has 40 adolescent inpatient beds, and hundreds of youth every year are being sent to emergency departments and are then quickly referred out to community-based services, which may or may not have space for them. Continuing to invest in our school-based health center therapists like Kate Thomas at Franklin High School ensures that students and families experiencing complex barriers to accessing quality mental health services can see someone at a school-based health center in their neighborhood, meaning these students can start receiving care quickly and avoid entering our crisis mental health and juvenile justice systems, which again are services that are far more expensive than what our school-based therapists cost our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. You're welcome to go next.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Would you please speak into the microphone? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Westover. At the Metropolitan Public Defender, I supervise the case managers who are currently funded by this county's Peer Navigator pilot project. I'm here to comment on that program's value and ask for its funding to be continued. Having case managers in our office is without question the largest positive change to public defense since I started in 2015. This is because of who our clients are and what our case managers do for them. Our clients are frequently among the most vulnerable members of our community. They're without homes. They live with substance use disorders and untreated mental health conditions. Their lives from early childhood through the present day are filled with trauma and abuse and uncertainty. and more often than not, they do not have the support networks that you or I have. The help they need goes well beyond dealing with their criminal charges. Our case managers are experts at accessing and navigating the community resources that are specifically designed to help people stabilize and achieve success and independence. As an attorney, I know that these resources exist, but I do not have the bandwidth to make meaningful referrals by staying abreast of entrance criteria and differing referral processes. Clients tell me, yes, people have tried referring me to that place before, but what they did was they gave me a phone number, and when I called that phone number, nobody answered. Because our case managers make referrals and follow up so frequently, they've built relationships with our community service providers. They have phone numbers that actual people answer. They know where and at what time somebody needs to answer, to get connected. They know where and at what time somebody needs to go to get connected to specific services. They've toured the various facilities so they can tell the client what to expect, and they frequently invite representatives of those organizations to our office so they can get to know the people and have important questions answered. Knowing the landscape is not enough, though. Our case managers are effective because from the first point of client contact, they develop relationships based on trust and honesty. They utilize motivational interviewing to help clients understand their needs, that it's okay to ask for help, and that although the process will not be easy, they won't be doing it alone. As the relationship grows, the case manager becomes the person the client calls when things aren't going well. We've had clients contact us when they're about to leave or get kicked out of a treatment provider, when they're about to relapse, or when they're in acute mental health crisis. In those situations, our case managers have found new places to go, talked them down from a relapse, or persuaded them to go to the hospital. I've seen the impact our case managers have on our clients, and it is game-changing. The value they add to the services we provide is beneficial well beyond its cost. Please allow them to continue to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Caitlin Hoofnagel. I was raised in Portland. I'm a district in Voter 3. I'm currently pursuing my Master of Social Work at Portland State University, and I'm also a full-time case manager with Metropolitan Public Defender. 3 years ago, your office made the incredible decision to fund our program, and because of that, I alone have been able to help over 150 clients navigate the criminal justice system, treatment programs, and housing. Today, I would like to use my time to tell you some of their stories with their permission. I was on a vacation when a work call slipped through. It was a client I had gotten out the week prior, so I answered it. He needed support in his sobriety, which I was able to give him at 8:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. What I didn't know was that he had been standing in front of the beer cooler, and because he had called me for support, he walked away and maintained his sobriety. If I hadn't been there, he would have had no one to call, no one to offer words of encouragement. He would have relapsed, he would have been kicked out of treatment, and he would have been taken back to jail. Another client of mine had been struggling with addiction and homelessness in between cycles of prison for the last 30 years of his life. He began using methamphetamines at the age of 13. Last year, I created a release plan to a treatment bed that successfully got him out of custody. That included coordinating with service providers, assessing what program would best fit his needs, testifying at his release hearing, and picking him up from the jail to accompany him to his treatment intake. Now, he's nearly 1.5 years sober, and for the first time in his adult life, he has permanent, stable housing. Commissioners, my job is to know these community resources in and out so that I can help my clients navigate them. I have stood in line at shelters. I've waited hours in the jail lobby. I have personally delivered food boxes. I've met clients on the street, in Burger King parking lots, on park benches, and in their aunt's living room. I've been bedside in the psychiatric unit. I have consoled clients and family members alike in court. I have advocated to judges for my clients in the same way that I am advocating to you for our community. All of these things are part of my job, and I love it. I am so grateful to be doing this work, and for this reason, I urge you to continue funding the Partners for Justice program so that we may continue to serve our most vulnerable community. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sonia Goodstefani, and I'm the Director of the Community Law Department at the Metropolitan Public Defender's Office. Thanks for allowing me to speak today. I'm here because the proposed budget cuts 4 county programs from community law. That's in addition to the Peer Navigator program that Joe and Caitlin just spoke about. The proposed cuts cut over $1 million, which is a 40% staff reduction, and it will have devastating impacts on thousands of individuals in our community. I'm worried about the clients that we will not be able to serve with these cuts. These programs provide civil legal services to low-income and homeless county residents, including eviction defense, court debt relief, immigration advocacy, legal housing supports, and barrier legal reduction services for those trying to get housed and jobs. Over the last several years, through these contracts, we've helped thousands of people. Just last year, through these 4 contracts, we have helped 2,000 clients. We filed over 5,000 motions with courts all over the state of Oregon, and we've waived over $4 million of debt. That's court fines and fees and landlord-tenant debt and credit debt for these clients. I want to briefly touch on the 4 programs that are not included in the county budget, and I submitted materials to you all last night. The Eviction Prevention Program provides eviction defense to residents of Multnomah County. 80% of landlords have representation in court. 6% of tenants get a lawyer. Eviction cases are the fastest moving civil cases out there. Our clients are scared and confused, and they need legal support. This program helps people maintain their housing and keeps them off the streets and out of shelters. Our JOHS program, the second one, provides legal services to homeless people in the coordinated access system with the goal of getting them housed. There is so much demand for this program that over the last 2 years, we've had to shut down early. I just asked our misdemeanor unit, how many people come into the criminal legal system in our office who are homeless? They estimate that 40% of their misdemeanor clients are homeless individuals. The third program is Project Reset. It clears $2 million of mostly uncollectible debt that is holding people back from getting valid driver's licenses and expunging their criminal records. Addressing those barriers ensures people can get jobs and truly leave the legal system behind. Lastly, our expungement access program helps pro se applicants, those are folks who don't have attorneys, navigate the expungement process and helps the backlog of filings since 2022. I just want to say that while I'm constantly amazed at the outcomes of our staff, what often sticks with me is the uncountable people we already don't have capacity to provide legal services for. Thank you for hearing me today.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sierra Carson, Anna Braidsky, Bob Brimmer, and Charles Richcrane.
Good morning, you can begin.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Bob Brimmer. I'm the licensed contractor for Cascadia Clusters, one of many for the Micro Village Expansion Project's administrative team, and lived at Hazelnut Grove for 6 years and St. John's Village for 2 years. Thank you for your inclusion of micro villages in the upcoming fiscal year. I commend your innovative leadership and the difficulties of overcoming budget shortfalls to address our community needs. The continued support of microvillages continues this innovative support by allowing homeless folk to reclaim dignity, safety, and hope. This last aspect, hope, is by far the most important. Due to this, it is my personal view that the use of longer-term stays in these village spaces, generally 90-day turnarounds are expected for the larger sites, are critical to the success of moving people out of homelessness. These longer stays will unfortunately cost the taxpayers more, but when you're rebuilding someone's hope, how do you put that to a line item? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi. Is this good?
Hit the button on the, there you go.
Okay. Normally I'm loud enough. Hello, my name is Sierra Carlson. I am a case manager at Metropolitan Public Defender. I began working full-time as a case manager at MPD back in December of 2022. and was hired through the national nonprofit organization Partners for Justice. I come to you today to ask for your help in keeping the case manager program, what you guys also refer to as the peer navigator program, at Metropolitan Public Defender and Multnomah Defenders, Inc. funded. I wanted to share one of my clients' personal testimonies regarding the benefits of having a case manager assigned while at MPD. My client has given consent for me to share this with all of you today. And before I start and give that testimony, I do want to add, I met her while she was incarcerated, created a release plan that would release her to substance use and mental health treatment. We presented the release plan in a release hearing, and the judge approved her release. So, this is her testimony. Sierra Carlson was my case manager during my time navigating the justice system, and I don't know what I would have done without her work. She helped me communicate with my attorney, found me a treatment program that fit my health needs, stable housing, and made sure I was safe throughout the whole process. Because this was my first time dealing with court proceedings, I was scared of the whole experience, but she reassured me and made the whole situation much easier with her competency, kindness, and tenacity. Sierra advocated for my well-being throughout such a foreign and difficult time of my life, and I don't know what my life would look like now without her help. Her work is integral to so many clients of the Public Defender's Office, and the idea of losing such an important service would mean devastation to so many people. As is, the Public Defender's Office is spread thin, so having someone that is able to act as a liaison for clients to reintegrate into society is crucial. Please do not defund case managers. The work Sierra and other case managers provide ultimately lessens recidivism by providing thoughtful, meaningful, and forward-thinking solutions to client issues that they deal with while navigating the justice system. That was her testimony, and I do just want to add that next week I will be attending her substance use treatment graduation, and this is the longest that they have been sober in, I want to say, the past 10 years or so, and they also now have their own apartment and have stable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Anna Brodsky, and I am a defense-based case manager through Partners for Justice at Metropolitan Public Defender. My program works with indigent defendants pre-trial to connect them with vital social services, as you've heard about already. I am speaking today to shed further light on the value my program brings to some of our most vulnerable community members here in Multnomah County. As defense-based case managers, we are uniquely positioned to be the people clients call when they need help. Because we are embedded in public defenders' offices, clients know that we have a duty to keep their information confidential and to protect their interests. This fosters trust. This means that we are the people clients can go to when they're contemplating relapse or have gone off their medication or have gotten kicked out of their shelter and need help getting back on track. They can feel safe in the knowledge that sharing this information won't be used to punish or judge them, but to help them navigate to the next right step. And because we stay in constant communication with service providers, we also have the knowledge to help them take that step. Many of our clients come to social services with a degree of mistrust. But because of the connections and the knowledge that we work so hard to maintain, we can tell a client exactly what that shelter will look like because we've toured it ourselves. We can tell clients exactly who will be doing their treatment intake and why we think they'll gel with that person. We can reassure a client who is nervous to go to the doctor that we can help them get their interpretation needs met, and we can go with them to that appointment to make sure all goes smoothly. We can do these things, and we have. Knowing that the resources are out there theoretically is one thing, but getting the information on how to access those resources from a person that you know is bound to protect your interests is something entirely different. For this reason, I am advocating for the County Commission to continue funding the Defense-Based Case Manager Program. Thank you for the opportunity to share my testimony.
Thank you. Good morning.
I love these people. I'm Bridge Crane Charles Simca Johnson, and we don't say it quite as much, but we used to love to drop buzzwords like intersectionality in this room and various spaces around Portland. And so we could go to slide 17, and on slide 17, there's a weird little phrase, flex dorm. I think it's $1.2 million of flex dorm. What does that mean? That means the future is dark, and we might have to spend $1.2 million putting more people in incarceration. Golly gee, let's hope that those funds never get implemented. And one way to not implement them is to do better with case management everywhere. Case management in the Public Defender's Office, case management in Homeless Services Department. I first met Mr. Westover in 2016 when he was public defending, even as a trial attorney. Trial attorney who got me to go visit the old courthouse on the top floor where you used to have weekends in jail. But I think we couldn't afford to do weekends in jail or something like that more. And it's really just part of a day on the weekend. Unfortunately, that was in 2016, and there was no case management. And the only time I felt I had decent case management from that point until February of this year was about 4 or 5 months during the pandemic at the River District Navigation Center. That was like my third time being a TPI baby. I never get any other shelters but TPI. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's for the best. But only in that time of the pandemic at half capacity was there a competent case management team where I had somebody working with on my housing and also advising me on healthcare and having regular appointments. Unfortunately, homeless people have no effing rights. And so if you walk out of your homeless shelter and there's an incident of homophobic abuse and your response looks violent, they will same day boot you out of that homeless shelter on the appearance of violence. And you can just wander the streets and sleep on the porch of the closed Ross store downtown, 2021, baby. So case management is critical. Sort of school-based mental health case workers are also helping manage the case of those students, and we're going to take that away too. I know these are hard choices. Even after the budget, when we see where the wreckage is, you will have to be stand-up citizens earning your way above median family incomes as you sit up there to make sure other rainmakers can fill in the gaps. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lightning.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Sovereign Wealth Fund, XAI, USD1. One of the concerns I have on the property tax issue on setting that rate is that you have so many buildings downtown that have pretty much gone on the auction block. And even the Ritz-Carlton couldn't even technically open its doors and be successful. Again, when you see that out in the marketplace, the property taxes, you could place a moratorium on their taxes for 3 years. And you also, when you look around the skyline, and I know that Commissioner Moyer would understand this, when you don't see the cranes up in the skyline, like 4 years ago when there were 30 and now we're down to 5, that's sending a message that we're not building and we're not getting that new affordable housing built. And in the next few years, you're going to see a crisis in Multnomah County and the city of Portland. And I will say, because of the politicians, quote, the leaders, haven't addressed that concern fast enough. And that also means a moratorium on property taxes for properties that are failing. You have to step in and act like a business owner sometimes and not the, quote, government that has endless amounts of money and your salaries always go up with inflation. But you have to step in, you have to save those businesses. Because when you don't, then we see at the city of Portland that $100 million budget shortfall, and y'all go, well, gee, why do we have these big budget shortfalls? Well, it comes back to your policies. It comes back to the politicians not reading the market properly and then stepping in and trying to adjust it, which the government can do that. Some people call that socialism, the government controlling the economy and the marketplace itself. But I just call that common sense and understanding what you need to do to make sure those property tax revenues come in and support the services for the people. And when you don't step in soon enough, the dominoes begin to fall. The biggest domino in the city of Portland is the Ritz-Carlton. And I'll tell you why that's the biggest domino, and I forewarned you all about this. That sends a message throughout the world. It's not a good place to put your money. The Ritz-Carlton hit the auction block, and let me tell you something. When that message gets sent out and that Ritz-Carlton brand and people hear it, you have budget shortfalls. Congratulations, politicians. It is your reality and you created it.
Thank you.
But I do appreciate your balanced budget. The federal government learned how to do that.
Chair, that is all the public testimony. We also received 20 written testimonies.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll invite Christian and Jeff to come back up, and then we'll open it up to the board for questions. Commissioner Mora, we can start with you.
After the approval process, can the board create any additional funds?
We can. So for the record, Christian Elkin, County Budget Director, I she, her pronouns. If we do want to create a new fund, because we would be going from 0 to 1, that would obviously violate 10%. We could ask TSCC to hold a second hearing, or they could, I'm sure that it's a little bit of a fluid process. We did it before when we got the American Rescue Plan dollars, and that was such a huge amount. I think it would depend on what the fund is. If it was smaller amount, they might be able to issue us kind of a written statement, but I could definitely follow up with them to find out how long that, and if it could just be a virtual meeting as well, that they could come and have on the legitimacy of that fund in the budget.
And do we need to go back, and I'm going to get the letters wrong. What is the board again? The
TSCC, Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission.
Do we need to go back to them if loss of federal funds drops us in any budget number under 10% or exceeds 10%?
No. So the only thing we have to go back for is an exceeding of the 10% threshold. They will watch our hearings closely and find out. They know that we have made the best estimates with the information that we have when we submit the budget, both the approved budget and the adopted budget. And so I stay in close contact with their director. If something big is coming down, like I will talk to them before we do the state rebalance so they have an understanding of what we're doing.
And then just for the record, an adoption of this budget is only about the funds available per fund. It locks us into the 10% rule by fund, but does not tell us how we can spend that money. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it locks us into both the property tax and the assumptions around the property taxes. So you would not be able to, as Jeff pointed out, we are not at the top of our ability to spend on the library levy district. So we're at $1.22. once you approve the budget, you cannot change that amount. So we would not be able to increase the amount that the library receives. And then we cannot increase any fund by more than 10%. But how you distribute those funds and the actions that you take as you're thinking about which departments, which programs to fund, you still have the capacity to do that before we adopt the final budget.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, because you said adopt the budget and you spoke about approving the budget, but did you mean approving? Okay, I want to make sure, because the second one was would have been a different answer.
Thank you, and I caught that too, but I was going to say so, yeah.
No, thank you. I want to make sure you got the right answer. So I don't have questions on this. I think I've really appreciated the discussion to date about what approval means. I've had some good conversations with folks in District 2 about what approval means, and that it's not locking us into anything except for this 10% increase, which I'm with you guys. If somebody has a bunch of money somewhere, please tell us now, because I can stop trying to trade funds through different programs. But I did just want to make a couple of comments here. I think it's really important. We've referenced the federal government a couple of times, again, not knowing what all those pieces will be that drop. I think that I'm really looking for us doing our best effort to make sure we fill the gaps that we already know exist. And so I've mentioned before, some of those include things like fair housing investigations that were cut out of DCHS, but now have been cut by the federal government, and so may need to be revisited about how we might, as a board, want to address those sorts of situations. I just wanted to share a little bit about, I'll be centering the people that we serve in my proposed budget amendments. I don't have any to introduce today. I know this is the first opportunity to do so, but I wanted to share a little bit of amendments that I'll be working on related to homeless services, including moving one-time only funds into shelters that have leases that end in fiscal year 26 or 27. Right now we have ongoing SHS in those shelters. I will look to be moving SHS back into homeless services to preserve ongoing core homeless services like rent assistance out of shelter and culturally specific emergency rent assistance, income acquisition, permanent supportive housing, and our ongoing emergency sheltering. I will plan to be putting forward budget notes that request programs create some of the same outcomes for the same types of services. If you're an outreach program working with people experiencing homelessness, regardless of what department or social service nonprofit you work in, I'd like us to have some same basic outcome goals that we agree we should be measuring for that kind of work. I also think it's critical that we execute the county's first ranked choice voting successfully and taking lessons learned from 2024 election and ensuring that we conduct thorough outreach in East County, where some people will experience this for the first time. We've heard weekly about, and I want to continue to appreciate our school-based mental health practitioners who show up to advocate for the kids in our schools. And I know a number of folks on this dais are looking at ways to keep those types of services funded. I think it is also just important that we, as I was thinking about this meeting today, I was thinking about the values that I heard from all my colleagues at our board retreat, and how despite a tough process where we may have competing priorities, I know we have so many shared values, and that's what I will be holding on to get us through what I think will be some difficult conversations. In closing for me, I just want to again reiterate, there is a lot of shirking of responsibility at the federal level and not knowing what the state will be doing. It leaves us in a sticky situation where we have lots of folks stuck in poverty and they need different programs to meet their basic human needs. And so my focus will be coming back to those core social service safety nets of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brim Edwards.
I don't have any questions, but once we're done, I'll have a statement before we move to a vote.
Okay, I'll go to Commissioner Jones and then come back to you. Okay. Oh, you have a statement as well? Okay. Absolutely. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I don't have any questions, just the statement. Really looking forward to just diving into this, to the process. I know it's going to be a lot of tough decisions. Our office has been digging deep into just our community safety systems and, of course, school-based mental health. and also economic development and the role that we play as a county and all of that. So thank you for just the work and all the tools that you've provided as well, and for wearing the right shirt. Should have did the same thing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Moyer.
Yeah, I did want to make a statement before we vote about this budget process and start with my appreciation for all of the work that goes into this, because it is extensive. And that I think over the next 5 weeks, it is going to be an opportunity for the public to weigh in on their priorities, and I highly encourage people to do that. My approach or values that I'm bringing to this budget process are to prioritize frontline services, and those are hard because they are almost always personnel heavy, and there will have to be offsets in this budget. Any proposal that I make that would put offsets forward that could result in a loss of FTE is absolutely not a reflection on the work of the individuals in those positions or even the value of the work being done. It is just a very difficult budget year, and tough decisions have to be made, and I am approaching this with what I will be putting forward with a lens of the need to protect our most vulnerable in the services, to address systemic inequality and provide life-saving and vital services. So I just wanted to make that comment as we move forward. I certainly will have my suggestions. I look forward to the conversations, but you know, I am new and I do not know the programs that the public interacts with as well as they do. So I really encourage people to reach out either at our hearings or through whatever form they are most comfortable, letting us know about the services that you value. And I appreciate any participation that people can engage in a very busy and stressful time. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brehm-Edwards.
Great. Thank you, Christian, to you and your staff for getting us to this point in the budget process this morning. My comments are going to be based on my experience as a local elected official, having gone through 12 budget processes of adopting a public budget here in Multnomah County, and having, this will be my 13th TSCC process. And then in addition, there's, in fact, on Tuesday night, I had a TSCC process with the Tax Supervising Commission on the local bond for another jurisdiction I'm with. So my comments are going to be reflective of just my experience. So the annual budget adoption is, for the county, is one of the most significant responsibilities we have as a county commissioner. It's one of the big five. The budget's a reflection of, has been stated, of our shared values, and it should represent the priorities and the needs of the communities we serve. We develop an annual budget by reviewing the chair's submitted budget, receiving department presentations, asking the community for their input in public budget hearings, digging deeper into the budget and discussing the elements of it in public meetings, and by proposing and adopting amendments. This is a $4 billion budget, including about $800 million in general fund. The commission should have ample time to hear from department staff, county residents, and community partners on the impacts of the budget options before us. And this is especially true in years in which the chair's budget proposed either cuts or potential layoffs of county employees. Multnomah County is unique, as are the cities and local jurisdictions like school districts that are within it, in that, in contrast to the neighboring counties and cities, in Multnomah County, the budget process is structured and overseen by the Multnomah County Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. Last year, I raised the concern that we were asked to approve the budget the day after we received it. A small amount of time has been added this year, and I appreciate that that happened. But to begin, the commission is being asked to approve the proposed budget just a few weeks after receiving the chair's proposal. From a commissioner's perspective, I don't feel like we're 80% through the process. To me, it seems like we're just now beginning to dive into the process. I understand it's different from staff because you've been through the whole budget process of developing the chair's budget, but we're just at the very beginning of our process. Given the complexity and the scale of the budget, the approval timeline does not, in my perspective, give the commission time to thoroughly review the chair's proposed budget and gather information to make an informed decision, let alone we haven't had any of the major department presentations or really held public hearings to receive feedback from county residents. As I said last year, approval and adoption of the budget are formal actions. They are a thing by local governments in Oregon. This is not a transmittal action, although it allows us to transmit it and allows you, as you noted, to fulfill your responsibilities as required by local budget law. But approval is a formal part of the budget process. The purpose of Oregon's local budgeting process is designed to, quote, establish standard procedures for preparing, presenting, and administering the budgets of Oregon's local governments. The Oregon Department of Revenue's local budget manual, which is linked to state statutes, says this about budget approval. Quote, the budget committee considers, that's us, considers the budget proposed by the budget officer, the chair, and comments made by the public, and makes additions or deletions. When the budget committee is satisfied, it approves the budget. The budget approved by the committee specifies the amount of rate of each ad valorem tax levy. End of quote. Transparency and accountability are cornerstones of good governance. Approving the budget today without having sufficient time to understand and evaluate its impacts limits my ability to make a fully informed decision about approval. For example, the chair's budget proposes cuts to school-based mental health therapists, homeless outreach services, employment programs, and public safety, and at the same time adds new positions. It's premature for me to feel comfortable and be satisfied to approve this budget. In the interest of transparency and responsible governments, I'm going to continue to advocate for adjusting our process and timeline, or have the Tax Supervising Commission adjust their process to allow more substantive review before the commission is asked to fully approve the proposed budget. Because just as our budget staff has a need to fulfill the requirements of local budget law, I feel like the commission does as well, and the timeline that we've been given by the Tax Supervising Commission doesn't allow, I don't feel, allow us to perform our duties. Speaking for myself, a revised process will better align with the Commission's commitment and work to improve transparency and accountability in county decision-making. It will also ensure that the County Commission is empowered to perform our responsibilities to approve and later adopt an annual county budget that truly reflects our values and priorities. I'm going to be voting no this morning.
Thank you. All right, and I think we have already heard the statements from Commissioner Singleton and Jones-Dickson. So Marina, can we have a roll call vote? Thank you.
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
No.
Commissioner Jones-Dickson?
Aye.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the resolution is adopted. We will now adjourn as the Multnomah County Library, nope, wrong one. We will now recess as the Multnomah County Budget Committee and convene as the Multnomah County Library District. New hat.
R2, resolution approving the Multnomah County Library District's proposed fiscal year 2026 budget for submittal to the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission.
May I have a motion? Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Moyer seconds. Approval of R2. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. It's good to be here with you today. I'm Annie Lewis, Multnomah County Library Director, and I'm joined today by the library's Finance and Facilities Director, Katie Shifley. A few weeks ago, on April 24th, we shared the Library District proposed budget message with you and posted the Library District proposed budget online. As a reminder of the top line total, $123.2 million is budgeted for transfer to the County Library Fund to support library operations in the fiscal year 26 proposed budget. Today's action is to request that you approve the district proposed budget and direct us to submit that document attached here as Exhibit 1 to the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission by May 15th in order to meet Oregon budget law requirements. As you just heard from Christian, after the approved stage, the Library District Board generally cannot increase our fund totals by more than 10%, by the 10% threshold without additional hearings. After this point, we cannot increase our property tax estimates. Our property tax estimates are developed by the Budget Office, so the same compression and delinquency rates that you just heard from Jeff from the Budget Office are the baseline assumptions for the district. We'll be establishing a levy rate for the Library District of $1.22 per $1,000 of assessed value for fiscal year 2026, which is part of what we send to the Tax Supervising Conservation Commission. This is lower than the max rate of $1.24, but given the continued financial challenges on the horizon and the manageable reductions that we've taken to balance our budget in FY26, we're confident that this is the right approach. Our Library District and Library Department budget work sessions are coming up on May 29th, where we'll dive into the details with you. But we're happy to answer any questions or talk through any details with you today. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Marina, do we have any public testimony on this item?
Yes, Charles Johnson.
All right, we'll do public testimony first and then bring you both back. Thank you.
This is an easier yes. Good morning again. I'm Bridge Grant Charles Simca Johnson, and I guess we're going to obsess with slide 17 again. In addition to the fancy hidden wording about $1.2 million of jail as a flex dorm, we also get to say on that slide 17 that we're going to give the finger to the GFOA, the Governance Finance Officers Association or something like that. And we're only doing that in a mild way by not having the level of contingency or reserves they suggest. And I don't really know if anybody on planet Earth, or at least in this room, can talk competently about that, because this is like my 12th or 13th year of being peripheral to the budget process. And we never talk about how our cash flows. We do these ad valorums, and they probably come in a big clump, 90% maybe in 1 month or not, I don't know. Then who gets to hold the money? US Bank, Wells Fargo, we don't know. Of course, the same thing follows on just on a smaller scale for the library. And the reason I went back to this GFOA and the amount of contingency that we never know, do we ease it out at 8% per month, or do we hold it all till the end, and when does it get replenished, is because I think in my mind, it relates to why the heck wouldn't we max the ad valorem on our beautiful library system? We're making we make a long-term decision, I guess, because I think it's based on the fact that public body, municipal, and state budgeting in Oregon is kind of broken. But we could assess a little bit more and put better cash flow, at least through the library. But there are reasons why we don't. And I think I have some glimpses into some of those reasons, because especially any surplus can't really be held. It needs to be expended. But, and to me, that points to once you get through this crush, a serious burden on y'all and the city council, and is to better engage with your constituents about, are we not getting results? I don't think anybody can say they're happy with the results we've seen and how well we've done at helping homeless people transition to being housed. And really, that's a statewide problem. When they kick the campers out of Bend National Forests, some of them are going to find gasoline money to come here. So there needs to be better integration. The library is lucky because we cut them out 10 years ago or so with a special vote to give them this ad valorem, all of their own, that they have their own reasons for not maxing out. But fiscal policy-wise, we need a better outcomes and better discussions, I think. That's what's a good reason for a no vote.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the board with any questions for Annie. Any questions? Yeah, no questions, it seems, so.
No, I have questions.
Yeah, oh, you do? Okay, then go ahead.
try and get to yes. So I'm going to start with just a question about thank you for the presentation. I'm going to go back to Jeff. You said that the library district had some room in its tax rate, that we weren't at the top of the tax rate.
Yeah, so we're assuming that the rate will be $1.22 per $1,000 of assessed value this year. The voter approved max is $1.24.
It's how much?
$1.24.
So so once the approval happens, that's locked in, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and so then looking through the presentation materials, the library's team talks about having a long-term structural deficit, but that through budget management, prioritization, and other sort of mechanisms that for now, it's not an issue. So for this year, if we lock in the tax rate today, that structural deficit is still something in the future, but not impacting this fiscal year.
Good morning, Commissioner. Katie Shifley, she, her pronouns, Finance and Facility Director for the library. Yeah, I think that's right. So that structural operating deficit is kind of like inherent to the funding structure of the library system. For this coming fiscal year, we're pretty confident the right thing to do is to leave the levy rate as is at 122. The reduction choice, balancing scenarios that we've had to take to balance the budget going into FY26 felt pretty manageable. And so given the sort of balance of increasing that rate on taxpayers versus, kind of balancing that against the known sort of continued out-year fiscal challenges, it felt like the prudent choice to wait to raise that levy rate. However, if the board came to a different conclusion after today, we always have the option of having an amendment to pull from contingency and then just directing us to increase the levy rate, going into next fiscal year if there was a different preference for the board.
Thank you. And how many FTE were reduced from the libraries based on from a budget perspective?
So the comparison to our FY25 adopted budget is a 2.5 FTE increase. It gets a little bit funky because we have a library foundation amendment that we do each spring. So like the true difference is a 4 FTE increase over our FY25 adopted budget, but that won't really come to fruition until we do our revenue amendment from the Library Foundation.
Great, thank you. So unlike the rest of the budget, I'm going to be fine approving the budget. Setting the tax rate, I had a chance to, it's one department or one much smaller part than looking at the entire overarching budget, and without significant cuts in the library employees, that I'm perfectly comfortable moving it through the next stage of the budget process without significant public feedback or having the formal presentation, which we'll get next week.
Great, thank you. No questions? Okay. Marina, can we have a roll call vote? Thank you all for your work in the presentation today. Thank you.
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the resolution is adopted. We now adjourn as the Multnomah County Library District and reconvene as the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners, last hat of the day. All right, now is the time we have for board comments and non-agenda items. I will open it up to commissioners to see who has any items to discuss today. Anyone? Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chair. And just wanted to say my mother, I talked to her this morning. That's usually my drive in. She said she really enjoyed the proclamation yesterday and just the hospitality. So again, well, thank you, Mom, for representing me. The time in DC was great. Was able to connect with a lot of the business leaders and then our delegation, and then also the Trump administration, which was interesting. So more to come. I'll share with you guys offline on that. And that's all I have to share for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. I just wanted to uplift the 60th annual St. John's Parade this Saturday. If folks have not been, you should. It's amazing. Lots of local vendors, music, really a good time. So please come out to St. John's and spend some money in my district. I also wanted to appreciate Director Lewis, you and your team, particularly for getting a spot to open the St. John's Temporary Library location, which I know you have now shared will be open on May 17th. So I just wanted to send that appreciation. I know the community has been really looking for opportunities to make sure that they can have some service. St. John's is feeling a little hurt right now because a lot of the cuts at the city also impact that neighborhood. So thank you for stepping up to make sure that one of our local gems could still be available for people. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I have just a couple things. I will also be at the St. John's Parade, so looking forward to that on Saturday. And it's a great event and so many people come out for it, so it's a great tradition. I want to thank everyone who came out to our community budget engagement training this past Saturday at the beautiful Midland Library. This was offered in partnership with the county's Office of Community Involvement and the Coalitions of Communities in Color and my office. This training offered community members a chance to understand the county's work and the budget process, my major budget decisions, and how to advocate for their community needs and priorities in the upcoming budget hearings that we'll have. I'm so glad for all the positive feedback that we did hear from attendees. I think that was, they said that they were feeling more informed and empowered with this process, which was the goal. It's also a goal that we can offer more of these community trainings year round, so our community has more opportunities to understand the process and how they can take part. And we heard a little bit of that from Amada when she was talking a little bit about the CBAC process. I'm also looking forward to hearing from our community over the next several weeks at our upcoming public budget hearings. Those are on Wednesday nights, and here, the first one is here in the boardroom. I wanted to make sure people knew that they can sign up to provide testimony at the public budget hearings online right now if they want to. So just want to make sure that and people knew that was opened up to go ahead and start signing up for those. Each person is going to be able to provide testimony for 2 minutes, and then we may have to adjust depending on how many people sign up for that. Finally, I want to thank everyone who joined us yesterday for our third proclamation ceremony. Commissioner Jones-Dixon, it was delightful to have your mother there. She is an amazing speaker. Yeah. We shared 7 proclamations with our Multnomah County community, and it was a very emotional, very impactful time together, and I appreciated that everyone who was a part of it. So thanks to everybody who worked on those proclamations to bring them forward, to all of the community members that were here and the celebrations that we were able to have after that for some of the different proclamations. Did you have
Were you going to adjourn?
I was going to adjourn, yes.
I wasn't sure if you were.
Did you have something else to say?
I did. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm glad you mentioned the proclamations, because I just want to share an observation from sitting here for the last 2 years, where we had proclamations mixed in with our regular board meetings. And I really want to appreciate the commission and all of our staff and our employee resource groups and our community partners willing to sort of make a pretty big shift in past practice, but past practice often left us sort of either compressing, recognizing some things that were really important to our community through the proclamations, and actually doing our work. And I mean, often we were cutting things short in order to try and accommodate both, and the separating out of the proclamations from our regular work meeting, I think, has given us the opportunity to do our work, which is in our board meetings where we need to take action without feeling like we're also shortchanging the community on something that's really important. So, and I also want to just call out Jenny Smith in the chair's office for sort of wrangling the whole process. I think we still have a couple little bumps along the process, but it just feels so much better. Yesterday was great because I feel like we had a diverse group of proclamations and people here who were all having an opportunity to celebrate all the things that we were recognizing, and it just felt much better, like I say, and it allows us to do our work when we have commission meetings and action items and not shortchange that time period. So just thanks for everybody who flexed.
It's been a great process so far, always continuous improvement, but I'm really happy with the way that we've been able to come together for those. So thanks everyone for your input into that process. So thank you. That concludes the regular board meeting. There being no further business, we are adjourned.